Good evening, my fellow Whale Striders. Tonight, we dine with ghosts. Before we step into the supper that would haunt East Texas for generations, we need to understand the world these people were living in. In April of 1847, before East Hamilton became a ghost of itself, it was one of the earliest Anglo settlements in southeastern Shelby County. Born on the banks of the Sabine River, where the water carried stories long before the roads ever did. Then, folks called it Hamilton, sometimes Port Hamilton. Some say it was even named for Alexander Hamilton, though out here, names drift like smoke.
I wonder where they got their call out of Freeport or somewhere, did you? You ain't really too far from Freeport. Nobody's around here. Candlelit, there you go.
First known burial in the little cemetery dates all the way back to 1812. A reminder that this ground has been holding the dead for a very, very long time. 1837, William Britton had built a simple log cabin that served both as hospital and school. It was the kind of place where Sunday sermons, spelling lessons, and frontier gossip all shared the same four walls. East Hamilton earned the first U.S. post office in Shelby County, with Charles H. Alexander as its postmaster. Soon in 1874, the name was changed to East Hamilton, keep it from being confused with another Hamilton nearby. During the antebellum years, East Hamilton thrived. Steamboats pushed up the Sabine, unloading goods and carrying away cotton. Folks began calling it Port Hamilton, a busy little river with stories, a warehouse, and the steady hum of frontier life. And after the Civil War, the world changed. Railroads replaced riverboats, and the Sabine went quiet. The town began to fade into history. By 1896, just 25 souls remained. The post office closed in 1936. By the late 1980s, East Hamilton was little more than just a church, a store, and a scattering of houses tucked deep into the piney woods. A place once full of life, now remembered mostly by its cemetery, its river, and the stories that refused to die. From 1839 to 1844, Harrison and Shelby counties were torn apart by the Regulator-Moderator War, a violent land feud that soon spread into Nacogdoches, Augustine, and nearly every corner of the piney woods. Its roots ran deep. Land feuds, cattle rustling, barn burnings, and revenge killings. Frontier justice answered frontier crimes. The cycle of retaliation left dozens dead. The regulators followed Charles W. Jackson and Charles W. Moorman. Moderators rallied behind Edward Merchant, John M. Bradley, and James J. Cravens. These weren't just names. They were men whose grudges carved scars deep across East Texas. It got so bad that Sam Houston had to step in and stop all of the feuding and killing. Though the feud officially ended in 1844, the bitterness lingered. Old enemies still lived side by side. Old wounds still throbbed beneath the bark of the pine trees. Peace existed, but only in the way a fire dies down while the coals still glow red hot. By the spring of 1847, the gunfire had stopped. The shadows of that war still stretched over every homestead. During that time, a wedding invitation was sent out to all of the people of East Hamilton. It should have been a night of joy, a rare moment of celebration on the raw Texas frontier. Instead, it became one of the darkest tragedies in East Texas memory. But by morning, everything was wrong. Miss Edens, the hired cook, had prepared the wedding cakes the day before, dozens of them, and left them in a smokehouse overnight for safekeeping. Neighbors from miles around crowded into Wilkinson's place that evening, wood smoke clinging to their clothes. The icing had been scraped from most of the cakes, they noticed. One had been covered in custard, a detail that would haunt this story forever. Supper went on anyway. Everyone began to speculate that maybe some children had snuck into the smokehouse and had eaten the frosting. Folks laughed about it, and they toasted the young couple cut to the cake anyway. Within hours, the celebration twisted into horror. Guests collapsed with violent illness. Distress signals echoed across the settlement. Horns blared that night. Hounds were howling as the riders galloped for help. Some died before dawn. Others lingered for days. Early reports counted 8 to 12 dead. Later tellings whispered the number may have reached 40. Between 60 and 80 guests ate those cakes on April 22nd. Within hours, many violently fell ill. The suspicion soon narrowed to a man named Wilkinson, a notorious hog thief, troublemaker, and known moderator sympathizer. Folks said he'd been stealing hogs from Spot Sanders, who was a regulator. That the poisoning was his revenge. Some claimed he slipped arsenic to Miss Edens, the cook. Others swore he warned certain guests not to touch the cakes at all. And then there were the whispers that the poison hadn't been arsenic at all. Deadly peach leaf steeped into the batter that would release deadly prussic acid. Whether Wilkinson handed Miss Edens the poison, or whether she added something by accident, or whether another hand tampered with the cakes at night, no one could tell for certain. In the chaos left behind by the regulator-moderator feud, truth and rumor tangled like Texas briars. Wilkinson was arrested, then released, and hunted down again. Some say he was lynched. Others say it was all a misunderstanding, because food poisoning was tragically common in the 1840s. Some died before dawn. Others lingered for days. Reports of even one victim died 4 years later due to complications. These woods remember. These graves remember. By the spring of 1847, the living walked among the dead, with old grudges still burning beneath the bark of the pines. But the story lingered, passed down through generations. A dark chapter in the piney woods where the dead never quite left the table. Whether it was murder or misfortune, the poisoned supper of East Hamilton remains one of the deadliest events in early East Texas history. A reminder of how thin the veil was between celebration and sorrow, between justice and vengeance, between life and the long shadow of the frontier. for joining me. Please like and subscribe. We all rest in peace. Thank you for joining me in the shadows tonight. Till next time, mind what you eat.